Good evening. I will call to order the town board meeting for Wednesday, February 13th, 2019. I will ask our attorney, Mr. Lynch, to lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Thank you. Oh, that's nice. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Good job.
Oh, you guys not coming? Oh, then we have everybody here anyhow, so we're ready. Very good. I'll ask Mr. Sampson, the town clerk, to call the attendance.
Councilman Rossman.
Here.
Councilwoman and Deputy Supervisor Charles.
Here.
Councilman Manunu. Councilman Weissmandel. Supervisor Specht.
Here, thank you. Our first item on the agenda, we have an executive session. We have to discuss a personnel matter, and I think there might be a litigation matter as well to resolve. So we have 30 minutes listed. We're hoping it'll be a little bit quicker than that, but we'll do our best. I'll call for a motion to enter into executive session. Motion by Councilman Rossman, second by Councilman Manunu. I'll ask that the chief of staff and, of course, the town clerk and the town attorney remain in the room at the time.
Thank you.
We're going to go to public participation. I'll ask the town clerk to...
Mr. Supervisor, before you do that, I think we had the first item on the
Oh,
agenda.
we
It's
should vote on that now.
actually-
Very good. We just had executive session. We discussed a personnel matter. We have a resolution to settle a disciplinary matter that was discussed in executive session today and on Monday at the workshop. Is there a motion to accept that settlement?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Yeah, we discussed a disciplinary matter in executive session. There's a proposed resolution to accept a settlement of that matter. I asked to see if anybody has a motion to accept that settlement.
So moved.
Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded by Councilman Rossman. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So it's 3-1 carried. We'll now go to public participation, and again, remind everyone it's a 3-minute rule. I'll ask the town clerk to keep track of the time, and I'll ask if anybody from the public wishes to speak at this time. Ms. Muniz.
Thank you, Board. Deborah Munitz, 5 Rose Hill Road. I'm speaking tonight regarding the item on the agenda regarding MJ Engineering and Land Surveying. I just saw the item on the agenda yesterday. I asked for a copy, which I got. Thank you very much. Upon which it's based, so I only had just a very short time to review it. It's essentially a 4-page proposal dated February 4th that does not appear to be in response to a public bid. The proposal appears to be designed to replace the work currently being performed by Ed Moran and sometimes Paul Gdansky of the DPW in its entirety at a very significant cost to the town of Ramapo. Based upon the comments made, I understand that the cost is in addition, not in lieu of they're not being fired. I have questions. So why is an additional consulting engineer required? Is there a report that relates to the need for additional staff? I certainly would like to see it, what the board's basing their decision on before this is voted. Is there a need for additional staff? And why is the additional engineer not being hired by the DPW to augment the existing staff? The proposed costs here are certainly more than enough to cover a full-time person. If the existing engineering staff is desirous of hiring somebody, why is the new consultant not being hired to report to the existing staff? I'm going to skip through this pretty quickly. The proposal includes no budget for training and research to bring the consultants up to speed on code and regulations. It's not a fixed price basis. I think that the bid is very underbid. I think that there's going to be a significant liability with respect to the prices that have been put before you. The services offered not only appear to duplicate Mr. Moran, but also the services by FP Clark. So what's the status of them? They included task 1 as regular office hours defined as 1 day per week assignment, and yet under their billing they have 2 days per week. When you basically multiply out the amount, it's the equivalent of over $300,000 a year for somebody working only 46 weeks a year. That is just an enormous amount. The planning board meetings, they say 11 a year. There were 16 in 2018. That's a regular occurrence. I think that's underpriced. And they often go more than 4 hours, and all of these people seem to be from hours and hours away, so I don't know if we're also paying for travel and hotels and the like. Task 3 is nebulous. That's the most of the work. It seems like this is designed to be able to bill out to the developers, which I think is a good thing. I think that's something we should have been doing all along, and I've said so. But I don't know why we would have to hire an independent consultant to be able to accomplish that. And I'm wondering if you guys can expand upon any legal reasons why you have to do it this way, because I think you're missing a good opportunity to make money without increasing expenses to the town. There is a serious risk to outsourcing these reviews. I'm wrapping up, obviously. Corporate America is well aware that employees are the true asset of any firm, and the town of Ramapo is like running a business. You're basically outsourcing an important function that's related to customer service to the residents, obviously, and it relates to costs and cost to the builders. So my concern is that you're not just increasing the cost to the residents, but also the cost to the builders, and we're basically we're not taking advantage of the information by the people who already work here, and that we're going to lose important skills and information in the town. I just think this is a terrible idea, and I think that if you want to pursue this, it certainly should be expanded upon and detailed and reworked and put out for public bid. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Yes, Mr. Romanowski.
Robert Romanowski, 183 Maple Avenue, Muncie. I see some progress is being made on Maple Avenue. The push button to work the walk, don't walk is now working again. And Phil Teesey came by and he looked at the lights that were out and he got that fixed, so that's working again. So that's an improvement. Only thing that really needs improvement now is the litter situation in Muncie. There's garbage and litter all over the place, and something needs to be done about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romanowski. Anybody else in the public wish to speak? Very good. Then we'll go on to the town attorney agenda.
Motion to close the public.
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion by Councilman Wanunu, second by Councilman Rossman. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Public hearing participation is closed. Mr. Lynch, if you could go through your agenda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. The first matter concerns the building inspection services agreement. There was a question in a workshop session about the overtime or extra time. That's in the resolution. It says $70 per hour. I would ask for a resolution approving that.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Lynch? Discussion? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve. It looks like this resolution has been amended to reflect the fire call-out rate is per hour, and after-hour inspections will be at a higher rate to take into account for overtime, so the corrections were made that the board had asked for Monday. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Councilman Rossman. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. Go on to item 2A2.
This was also reviewed in a workshop session. It's the agreement with the Rockland Paramedic Services for the amount set forth there. We recommend approval.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Lynch? Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded. Councilman Rossman, discussion on the motion.
Did you put, was the new rate?
Yes, this is the new rate. This is the rate that the town board determined during the budget process.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. Go on to item 2A3.
This is a agreement, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, for all the other emergency services. The amounts are set forth expressly in the motion, and this was discussed in our prior workshop session.
And these are the numbers that were from the budget?
Yes.
That's correct.
You have to vote on a separate resolution to approve the agreements individually, from what we understand. We usually do that for more than 1 year. For some reason, it wasn't this year.
Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded by Councilman Rossman. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. And if you'll go to item 4.
If you may, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, this is an agreement, an IMA, intermunicipal agreement that takes place with regard to the village, KZAR in the town with regard to safety and crime prevention initiative. The amount is set forth expressly in the resolution. We recommend approval.
Any questions? Motion? Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded by Councilman Rossman. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Anyone opposed? 4-0. And now we'll go to item 2B, amendment of local law designation.
This is the same local law you voted on before. For whatever reason, the Secretary of State rejected it under the old number and wanted to have a number in 2019. So it's being changed. What was 8 of 2018 is now going to be 2 of 2019. This is at the request of Secretary of State.
This is just a ministerial.
Completely ministerial.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Lynch? Not, I'll call for a motion. Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Councilman Rossman. Discussion. All in favor?
Mr. Supervisor, I just want to I'm sorry.
That's right.
Before,
Carries 4-0.
just want you to note, Mr. Supervisor, that although the Secretary of State requested this, in fact, the local law is current and
It's in effect.
in effect.
That's
I just
right.
want to make that for the
It's
record.
strictly ministerial.
Thank you. We'll go to item C, acceptance of right-of-way for Main Street.
This is just a acceptance of a right-of-way. The meets and bounds description was not there before at the workshop. It's there now. We recommend approval.
This is recommended by the Department of Public Works, I believe.
That's
Any
correct.
questions for Mr. Lynch? Motion? Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Councilman Rossman. Discussion on the motion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. Item D, secret determination.
If I may, Mr. Supervisor, members of
Please.
the board, this deals with the amendment to remove certain restrictions regarding size of accessory apartments. Our outside professionals, Frederick P. Clark Associates, and specifically David Stolman, reviewed the matter. They are planning consultants. They're recommending this be given a negative declaration.
Any questions for Mr. Lynch about this item? Moved by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Councilman Rossman. Discussion? Then vote, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. We adopted negative declaration. And now we'll go into the next item, which is adopting local law.
If
Well,
I'm-
let's have Mr. Lynch explain it.
If I may, this is the same issue before. The prior one was a negative declaration. Now, this is the actual proposed resolution to adopt a local law regarding removing certain restrictions. There is a GML review that the county did, and there is recommendations by our planner that the county's comments be overridden. I'll summarize those comments if you like, Mr. Supervisor.
Please do.
Comment number one, the original adoption of local law, the town has become aware of the size restrictions imposed under accessory apartments do not meet the needs of individual families. Permitting accessory apartments to be larger will allow extended families to remain living in close proximity. A further review by Frederick P. Clark Associates determined the local law will have no adverse environmental impacts, and further, local law will not result in change of use or density, or not adversely impact existing conditions with regard to water supplies and traffic. Number two, this comment speculates the local law will result in future requests for variances. The local law does not require any variances to be implemented. Variances can be considered on a case-by-case basis. Number three, proposed local law provides that accessory apartments cannot exceed 50% of the principal dwelling. The size restrictions contained in the local law does not change the fact that accessory apartments is to be considered subordinate to the principal structure. It's been the town's experience in the past, the size of such units have always been smaller. There's no reason to believe there'll be any change as a result of proposed local law. Comment number four, the local law is revised to remove all references to price restrictions, and the intended portion of the said local law is to be revised to read as follows. Section 36-65C, an accessory apartment can be up to 1,200 square feet and cannot exceed 50% of the principal dwelling. The town has been advised that the size restrictions have hampered the construction of accessory apartments within the principal dwelling. By increasing the size of the accessory apartments, this will result in more efficient construction of accessory apartments within the principal dwelling. The town attorney's office recommends a favorable vote on this particular local law with those overrides.
I will also just state that Ian Smith, the building inspector, yesterday gave his recommendation that we adopt this local law. Any discussion or questions for Mr. Lynch? Very good. Is there a motion? Motion by, okay. Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Councilman Rossman. Any discussion on the motion? Very good. We had a public hearing back in the fall about this. People spoke pro and con. I think the proposed resolution addresses the GML's concerns and is appropriate. So I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. And then, Mr. Lynch, if you go on to item F, settlement of certiorari
Right,
actions.
these are pending tax certs, which the town has looked at them and determined that there's an economic benefit in having it settled right now. The first one is A&M SR LLC. We recommend the settlement be agreed to. The total refund by the town is $392.89.
Very good. Any discussion? Motion? Second, motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Councilman Rossman. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried 4-0.
Next, if I may, is MF 46 Muncie LLC. The same reasons we recommend that it be settled. The total refund by the town is $67.34.
Seems pretty minimal. Motion by Councilman Rossman, second by Deputy Supervisor Charles. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried 4-0. We'll go to the next one, A&M OSM LLC.
This one also, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, is a recommendation by town attorneys for a settlement. This settlement would be a total refund by the town of $1,007.15.
Very good. Any discussion? Motion, except Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. Go to next one, Deadwood Properties LLC.
Same reasons we recommend that there be approval. The total refund would be zero. We wanted to make up for the one with 1,000 just for there, so
Balanced it out.
we recommend that be so settled.
Very good. Any motion? Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. We'll go on to the last one, 52 Mesrich LLC.
Again, Supervisor, members of the board, same rationale behind the recommendation. This would result in a total refund of town taxes of $565.33.
Very good. Any questions? Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. Approved. Just have one question. At the workshop on Monday, we had an additional one on an exemption, congregation-based Mahari. Is that overlooked by mistake, or was that pulled from the agenda?
No, it was overlooked. I mean, it should be on there.
Yeah, that's why I remember that one.
So I just want to mention, Mr. Supervisor, before we go on, Mr. Lynch, could you take a quick look at that 52 Mesrich LLC? I think there are 3 amounts different.
Forgive me, there is, the highest one I gave you was $565. The other ones are $535 and $499.76.
These are 3 different properties.
Correct.
Okay. How do we resolve, we don't have the resolution?
It was on the workshop. You'll waive the rules and you'll adopt the resolution as proposed by the town attorney's office under new business, if you so choose.
Very good. I'm going to put that down. We'll address that when we get to new business. Okay. Then we'll go on to item G, settlement of the action of Crown Castle.
If I may, we have the final document. I must say, through the brilliant efforts of our chief of staff here, we've been able to negotiate a settlement of this
Thank
matter,
you.
address the concern of the village, the town resident, all of the concern with savings, and if I can turn it over to the chief of staff, who's outstanding work meeting.
Well, we discussed this in the executive session as litigation. and
It
we
actually
did
settles multiple
5
residents.
locations, and it seems very, as effective as we can hope for. So it's good. Any questions about it? If not, I'll call for a motion. Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman. Discussion. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. Very good. We'll go to the police agenda.
Just one thing, if I may.
Sure.
Going back to the local law, the record should reflect that we do have and did have all the required notices and postings with me
Yes.
physically, so that was done. I just want to make sure.
That was
the
right
record's
in at the
clear.
public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. Ms. Montalvo, I think you're familiar with the Carfax for the police.
I am, but I think you had one other thing you wanted to read into the record from David Stallman.
Oh, yeah, well, I was going to do that in the new
Okay.
business.
So I'll move on to the approval of the agreement with Carfax for the police program. The chief is recommending this. We've done it before, and the agreement is here. It will be reviewed by the town attorney's office. There's no expense to the town.
And just to clarify, this is so that our police can get information from Carfax. We don't have to pay anything. We have to just agree to share accident reports with the Carfax
Correct.
program. Any questions? If not, I'll call for a motion. Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. We now will go to you as purchasing director.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The first item on the agenda is the acceptance of the extension of agreement for fire alarm and sprinkler services for the St. Lawrence Center. The fees are listed in the attached documentation there. This is an extension of our original 2-year contract.
And again, all these items were discussed at the workshop on Monday. Is there a motion to approve? Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. Next item, which is extension of the fire and sprinkler system agreement for the senior center.
And we're asking you to accept Red Hawk Fire and Security for an additional 1-year extension as listed in the resolution with the backup data.
Very good. Is there a motion? Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Councilman Rossman. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries 4-0 as well. Next item, please.
The next item is item 4A3. This is it's a request that we made for a professional service which does not need to go out for sealed bid. We're asking, based upon the board's request, that you accept the consulting arrangements with MJ Engineering for the purposes as listed in the resolution and outlined in your attachment. Note that the amount is not to exceed $175,000. Any additional funds that would be necessary would need to be brought back before the board. Be advised further that these fees will be charged to the unincorporated area of the town where our building department is charged to, and not our general fund where our current DPW is charged to.
Very good. Any questions regarding this? Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, second, Councilman Rossman. Discussion on the motion? Then I'll call a vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries 4-0.
Item 4A4 is the acceptance of an extension for the fire alarm system at the cultural, for the fire alarm system, at the Cultural Arts Center.
Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second, Councilman Rossman. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried forward, 4-0.
The next one is the acceptance of the agreement for an extension of fire alarm give me 1 second here.
No, I think this is for buses for trips.
Right, trips. Give me one here.
West
Right.
Point Tours.
Sorry, 4A5 is extension of the agreement for buses for various trips, coach or equivalent. We're asking you to accept the extension of West Point Tours.
Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second, Councilman Rossman. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries 4-0.
Item 4A6 is an extension of the agreement with Interstate Waste. As the board is aware, the town has been exceptionally happy with the Interstate Waste agreement that we have, both for the unincorporated area of the town, as well as an additional agreement for the purposes of dealing with the town's trash and waste. I'm asking you to accept an extension of their agreement. The rate will stay the same, and as per our agreement, they're entitled to increase based upon the number of units, and there are 2 sources of funds as listed in your resolution.
Any discussion? Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded, Councilman Rossman.
Thank you.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries 4-0.
I'm going to just ask the town board to allow us to adjust the source of funds to reflect the appropriate place where they get charged to. I believe that it's the garbage, I believe it's the SR, it should say instead of A, 8160 SR,
All right.
and it would be 8160 SR as well.
If there's no objection, we'll amend the resolution to reflect that. Very good. Then we'll go on to the final bid acceptance for the Cultural Arts Center.
Correct. Mr. Supervisor, we're asking once again for the acceptance of the fire and alarm system for the Cultural Arts Center.
Is there a motion? Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded, Councilman Rossman. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0.
Item 4B on the agenda is the agreement of an approval with Dectronic Scoreboard Services Agreement, sole source, as listed in the resolution. This has been budgeted for.
Okay, we discussed this as well on Monday. Any motion? Deputy Supervisor, second, Councilman Rossman. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries 4-0.
Item 4C on the agenda is the approval and agreement with Wildlife Management Services with the USDA. As we've done before, we're asking you to, for the health and safety purposes, allow us to continue with our wildlife management program as listed in your resolution.
Very good.
How's the results been so far? I know we started that last year. Have you seen marked results?
With the wildlife, we have seen,
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a 3-year program, they claim. So we saw them, they're back full force now.
Okay.
We started a little late last year, so they're confident, they say we have over 250.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
geese.
and they're handled appropriately upon capturing
And they're-
them. They're actually given, I believe, to a food bank afterwards upon their capture.
Do you have locations that we're doing this? Is it all
We're
over?
we're doing Lake Suzanne, Willow Tree, and Camp Scuffy, and then any areas after that, 'cause it's a certain number of geese, and then they'll do.
Oh, it's numbered. You have a number, there's a
Yes.
hard number?
Yeah.
Like I noticed the other day, I was driving by, where's that terrace? What's the name? No. Mona, where's that terrace? What's the name of that street?
Summit.
Summit, by Summit Parkway over there.
That's our park, we can look at that.
Yeah.
Is that ours?
What they did was they drove through the town and kind of found out where they started from.
Oh.
Because they lose their flight after a certain time period.
Uh-huh.
But we can always add that. It doesn't just, it's not exclusive to those three places.
All right, very
It's up to the number of keys.
If there's no further questions, I'll call for a motion. Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded Councilman Rossman, all in favor. Anyone opposed? That carries 4-0. We'll now go on to item 5, Highway. I can handle this request. It was a request by Superintendent Brin to attend the American Public Works Association North American Snow Conference in Salt Lake City, Utah, May 19th to May 22nd. The total would be $1,700, which includes a registration fee, hotel, and airfare. This is something that I believe will be helpful to the highway superintendent to deal with continuing snow emergencies. If there's no further questions, if there's no questions, I'll call for a motion. Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, second, Councilman Rossman. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. Now we'll go to new business. We have an item that we discussed on Monday.
Mr. Supervisor, I think you should waive your rules now, because I think all of the items are going to be, there are few items.
I think you are correct. We have a few items of new business to discuss under our rule. Since we don't have resolutions for all of them 24 hours in advance, we'll have to waive that rule to go
Can we
forward.
do them independently?
We'll vote on each one independently.
No,
but
can we do the 24-hour one independently?
I guess we could, sure. So why don't we start with the first one, which is termination.
Excuse me, what do you mean by independent?
For each one that we're now adding on.
Going to waive the rules for each one?
Yeah, separately. Because I don't think that all of them should have the...
All right. Then we'll do the first one is the proposed resolution to terminate the license agreement with the Ramapo Equestrian Center. We discussed this at length on Monday in the workshop. And under the agreement, we can terminate upon 90 days written notice. And if we adopt this, we will authorize the town attorney's office to send that notice to the leasee or the licensee, and then any further action would have to come back to the board for approval. Any discussion or questions? First, I'll call for a motion to waive our 24-hour rule. Thank you, Mr. Sampson. Is there a motion? Motion by Councilman Wanunu, seconded Deputy Supervisor Charles, all in favor. 24-hour rule is hereby waived. Now on the resolution itself, any discussion? Motion?
I have one question.
Sure.
Termination of lease agreement. Do we have a copy of that? Because from the discussion
license.
Monday,
License, yeah.
License agreement.
do we have a copy? Did we get a copy? I remember, or maybe I don't, requesting a copy of the agreement.
I believe the town attorney's office has supplied that, and it might be in your box. I'll check when we're done with the meeting. And I believe there are several steps that would have to be taken in order for this to...
This is the first step, right?
Correct.
And then if they don't comply or reach a settlement, the town attorney's office would have to come back to the board to ask authorization if we were to commence a lawsuit, if it gets to that point. Any further discussion or a motion? Motion by Councilman Wanunu, seconded by Councilman Rossman. All in favor? And opposed? Carries 3-1. We'll now go to the next item of new business.
Settlement of tax certiorari base Mahari aside.
Right, this one was on.
You need to waive the
The
rules.
workshop on Monday, whatever reason it didn't make it on tonight. If I recall correctly, this was to grant an exemption to that property as a result of the petition they had brought in court. Motion by Deputy, first motion to waive the rule, seconded by Councilman Wanunu. All in favor? Rule hereby waived. And on the question,
Excuse me a minute. Who moved and seconded that?
Councilman
Wanunu?
Wanunu, Deputy Supervisor, seconded.
No, I did it. I think she...
Oh, the other way around.
Would you check his water bottle again, please?
Hasn't moved.
Okay, moved by Charles, seconded by...
And now we're on the motion to
And,
grant the,
waive.
accept the settlement. So we waive, all in favor of waiving the 24-hour rule? Anyone opposed? 24-hour rule waived. Now on the question itself, is there a motion?
No.
Okay.
Question, motion.
Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded by Councilman Wanunu. Discussion? All in favor? Hereby approved 4-0. Next item is, as Ms. Montal, you referenced earlier, we received a letter from David Stolman, our planning consultant, regarding the Pascack Ridge application, and I have momentarily misplaced my letter, forgive me. We have a letter, I have it, I'm sorry. We have a letter from Frederick E. Clark Associates dated February 8, 2019, addressed to the supervisor and the town board. Its subject is Pascack Ridge Comprehensive Plan Amendment and Zone Change Applications, CEQA. We don't require a resolution for this. The letter simply states, we are aware that the applicant has submitted the attached drawing entitled Concept Plan Pascack Ridge, prepared by Atzel, Nashler, and Ziegler, PC, originally dated September 17, 2018, with latest revisions dated October 24th, to the town in connection with the above captioned project. We recommend that the town board should acknowledge receipt of this plan and should request that the applicant evaluate this plan as a project alternative as part of the proposed final environmental impact statement, which the applicant is preparing in accordance with the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. If you have any questions with respect to this memorandum, please let me know. It's signed by David Stolman. I spoke to Mr. Stolman. He recommended that we read the letter into the record of the town board and therefore make it part of the record. I don't believe we need any resolution, but by doing this, we're acknowledging receipt, which is Mrs. Stolman is still evaluating the FEIS to see if it's complete, and then we're also asking that the applicant evaluate the plan with the revisions as a project alternative. So I don't think we need to take any action. It's just a matter of reading that request into the record. Very good. Next item is...
Mr. Supervisor, and it's the consensus of the board that that's what you all want, but without resolution.
That's correct. Thank you. I don't think we're asking that the revised plans that he submitted recently as part of the FEIS submission be considered as an alternative.
You consider that?
Right. It's still going to have to go back to the board. Very good. Then that seems to be the unanimous consensus of the board. We'll go on to the next item, which is not on the agenda, the use of the Cultural Arts Center. First, we'll take a resolution, a motion to waive our 24-hour rule. Is there a motion? Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman, all in favor? Anyone opposed?
No, I oppose.
3-1, the 24-hour rule is waived, and now we'll get on to the main issue. Ms. Montel, do you want to summarize the...
I think Mr.
Or Mr.
Lynch-
Lynch could
I
summarize
actually
that.
had put together a resolution, and the resolution reads as follows. Resolution authorizing continued provision of essential services only to the Cultural Center, such as electrical, gas, lighting, ice and snow clearing, compliance with all pre-existing agreements, up to but no later than the next town board meeting.
Very good. Discussion or questions for Mr. Lynch, or discussion on the motion? Very good. And is there a motion? Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman. Discussion on the motion? If not...
Yeah, I think there should be discussion.
Very good.
I just think it's very important that the public understands that this thing came out of completely, I don't want to say even left field. There was absolutely we have no information to vote on this. We have no information to go on anything with this. And I honestly don't think that this is something that shouldn't have even made it to the agenda if it was that important. That's something that the board should have been given the respect and at least a presentation to understand what it is that we're looking to do to move forward with.
Very good. Well, to clarify, this is just to keep the status quo for about 2 more weeks, to allow programs that are taking place in the center to continue.
This is something that's not on the budget.
That's
It has a
correct,
zero budget,
but-
and I think that that for us to fully appreciate, this is not, the center has a lot of use. For whatever reason, we have a zero line item in the budget, and if there's something that we feel that should be brought on, there's a way and there's a process within which it should go. And this is not the process of surprising everybody.
All right. Any further discussion?
Absolutely.
Mr. Supervisor?
Mr. Lynch?
This is critical because in the meantime, you know, the town is obligated to pay the utility bills. And
I think that was addressed.
without this authorization, I wouldn't be able to pay the utility bills, so.
That could...
at
I
least for
addressed
the-
that- I
at least
addressed
for
that.
the interim
Problem.
period, it's worthwhile to give me that authority.
This is a status quo resolution. Very good. Anything further?
Yes, just to clarify, the actual information on the Cultural Arts Center as it was operating in 2018 and the past has continued to operate into 2019. There was never any agreement to discontinue programs in the Cultural Art Theater. Anyone in the audience at home or here today understood or has understand that we have continued, and I have spearheaded myself in the honor of our previous Deputy Supervisor, Fran Hunter, to continue programs in the Cultural Arts Center for all groups. I have everyone there, especially in the eastern part of the town, which represents a haven and a mecca for cultural arts, music, etc., and art for children of color and families in that area. There was no agreement to discontinue those programs. There was no agreement to sell the building. The agreement and the understanding was that it would be continuous, and the change was, under the previous administration, that the not-for-profits were allowed to utilize the building for free. That was a directive because the previous administration, under a different leadership, made that designation. And those not-for-profits have utilized this facility in the past. Moving on to 2019, I was completely unaware, and I will be at fault for that. I tried to stay on top of most things, but completely unaware that the money for the Cultural Arts Center was taken out, possibly for the purpose of maybe some council members who may decide to sell it, which I totally agree. So we had a public meeting. We talked about several properties that were up for sale or whatever the town board decided to do. And we decided that we were not going to sell those properties, and we were going to utilize these properties as best we could under the direction of the new leadership with the supervisor to either make them into parkland or make them into continue the programs for children, especially the East Ramapo Central School District or any other not-for-profit. And I'm very proud to mention that I also have 2 religious girls' schools who use them for plays every year. So there is no discrimination. There is no problem with all of the young people utilizing this building. And I intend, as a council member, to continue to provide this facility for the public. It is the public's building. So I'm unaware that Councilman Wanunu was not aware of the presentation that I was made. Maybe, possibly, he was absent. And I'm always aware, and my door is always open to give any information to anybody who would like to know what exactly is going on in the Cultural Arts Center. So, under the direction of the new supervisor, we now have fees in place, working with our Parks and Recreation Director here. We've come up with, and the Chief of Staff, and John Lynch, and our council, and Councilman Rossman, we have come up with a fee schedule that would be accommodating to the public so they could continue to utilize the building, and so that the programs for our seniors and our young people can continue. And that's where we are at this time. I look forward to being able to bring more information forward, just to make clear for Councilman Wanunu, so he understands how important that this is. And I'm so sorry that you are not aware of it to vote on this today. But up until today and continuing, the programs are continuing. There was never a resolution to not have programs in that building, and we have programs coming. And I would like to also invite you on March 7th that we're going to have our African Heritage Day there. So please come, since we're talking about the programs in the Cultural Arts Center. Thank you.
Deputy Supervisor.
Mr. Supervisor, if I could just make it the public as well as I know I've made the town board aware of this already. The TARC committee that you established has not made any final and formal recommendations. There's not been a determination that you are or you are not selling any of those properties officially yet. Each and every property has been discussed and fully vetted and researched, and the committee has met approximately 7 times, including today. They'll be making a recommendation to the town board individually on each and every property. That being said, in reference to the Cultural Arts Center and the budget, The town's intent during the budget discussions was to consider licensing out to the Cultural Arts Center. Therefore, it was not budgeted currently. That licensing agreement, after discussions with the town attorney's office, the supervisor's office, the deputy supervisor, and others, it was determined to hold off doing a licensing agreement until the town itself can attempt one last time to individually operate that facility. However, that might not have been discussed with the board at that particular point in time. At this stage, after the Parks and Recreation Director, an assistant in your office, the deputy supervisor, as well as, I believe it was reviewed by John Lynch, there should be currently, at least for this year, a zero net. However, the council member had requested, and he wasn't here, and some written documentation, and the entire board at one point had asked for a different review than was done because, in fact, the non-for-profits hadn't been paying, and the calculation included them paying, an estimate of revenues with them paying. The budget has been scaled down to under $80,000. The revenues are anticipated to be approximately that. In deference to the councilman's request, the town board has made this temporary resolution, and the councilwoman, the deputy supervisor, would like to continue, certainly with the ones that exist. We have several organizations that we do have permits out there for that Ms. Antosca was authorized in general based upon our fee schedule to move forward with. So I hope that clarifies. Unfortunately, we have two differences of opinion, but there's no doubt that the cultural
Please let her finish.
the Cultural Arts Center is positive. Mr. Councilman Wanunu simply wants to continue to investigate the options that we have there, and that maybe somebody other than the town itself, similar to what we did in the golf course and other places, may be better. In the interim, I would ask that the board approve this resolution with the intent to continue on further investigation as to how to move forward.
Thank you very much. Very good. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote on the motion.
Moved.
Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles. Oh, sorry, I'm
Okay.
sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Abstain, one abstention. So it carries 3-0, one abstention. We have one more final item of proposed new business. And this is one that we have discussed previously in executive session multiple times, including as a personnel issue Monday as well as today. And again, there may be a difference of opinion among the board. I'm not sure, but I'd like to proceed with it. It's to agree to give an employment contract with Michelle Antosca, who is the Director of Parks and Recreation for the town of Ramapo. We have a proposed contract. First item, we would need to waive the 24-hour rule for this item. Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles. Second, Councilman Rossman. All in favor, 3-0, one abstention. And again, this is not on the agenda, that we have talked about it. As the board is aware, we've given employment contracts to other department heads. There are a number of remaining department heads who are still negotiating contracts or have not received contracts. The proposed contract for Ms. Antosca, in my opinion, is long overdue. She's been an asset for this town for 17 years, is always available, always works above and beyond, in my experience. And our Parks and Recreation Department is actually one of the things we should be most proud of, and I think provides a lot of happiness to our residents all across the town. The proposed contract contains no pay raise, minimal benefits, which are essentially what the employee already has, but it gives her the same security of a contract that the other employees have, and I think it would be appropriate and deserved to award this contract at this time. If there's any questions or discussion. None, I'll call for a motion. Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Mr. Ross, Councilman Rossman. Any discussion on the motion? Then I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Abstain.
Carried.
I think it's
3-0, one
important,
abstention.
though, and it's very important, Michelle, that you understand, because I know I'm not the only one. Unfortunately, this was another surprise to the board as of a couple of literally minutes ago. You and I had a conversation, and the board has had a conversation. The board has agreed on how to move forward with your contract. Unfortunately, I have no idea why. At the last second, there was a decision to make a change to that agreement. How we had everybody in agreement to have your contract approved. You should know that. You should be aware of it. I don't know why we felt this need to have a surprise of another contract, unless that was the reason that we had this thing, is that another contract that we don't want to put out. But we knew, even as late as yesterday in the afternoon, that this was something that was going to be on the agenda, and somehow it didn't make it to this agenda. The contract, your contract, was handed out to the board at the dais when this happened. There's nobody here who voted for this contract who even spent the time to read, to understand whether this is in your benefit or not in your benefit, or if it's given. This is not the way to run contracts.
Councilwoman Nuya, you need to speak for yourself. I read the contract, and I was involved in it. You so speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
So you're one person.
Well, I'm one person, and I have one vote.
You received a copy this afternoon.
When?
I don't know the time.
You gave it to me on the
I'm not going to
dates.
debate this.
Hold on a second.
I'm
You
not
gave
going
it
to
to us
debate
on
this
the
with
dates.
you. You made your
Okay.
statement, Councilman.
No, hold on a second.
We voted, the matter is over.
I'm not finished yet. I'm not finished.
Well, you're out of order because there's no motion before the board.
But listen, at this point, though, if you can disrespect the board like
It's
that, to have
not
done
a matter of
this...
You being disrespectful by telling everyone that you had no knowledge of any of this.
I'll call for a motion to adjourn as we have no further business. Motion by Councilman Rossman, second.
Second.
Deputy Supervisor Charles, all in favor, we stand adjourned.
She'll be safe. This is not the way you treat employees.
Got something?
Or board members.